Hello and welcome to the news at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland tonight. Labour takes victory in the Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse by-election. A shock to pollsters. Did old-fashioned local campaigning make the difference? We'll hear from people in Hamilton and talk to an expert. Also tonight, NHS Grampian makes plans to deal with its financial crisis. And is there enough support for island businesses that suffer losses from ferry disruption? We meet the Falkirk-born director of the BBC's biggest new drama, What It Feels Like for a Girl. Of course, we will have all the sport with Lewis, who is at Hampden for us.
Yes, Amy, I'm here at the National Stadium where Scotland are in friendly action tonight against Iceland.
Plus, we'll meet the Carfin girl who boogied with the boss himself, Bruce Springsteen. Hello, I'm Amy Irons and welcome to the news at 7. Our first story tonight then takes us to Hamilton, the South Lanarkshire town that suddenly found itself at the centre of Scottish politics after weeks of campaigning in a closely contested by-election. Scottish Labour has taken the seat of Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse from the SNP. The seat was left vacant following the death of SNP MSP Christina McKelvey, who had represented the constituency since 2011. The result came as a surprise to some. Later, we will hear what the people of Hamilton think and ask an expert what made the difference for Labour. But first, let's hear from the winning MSP, David Russell.
Well, it's about putting the message of the people across. For far too long, the people of Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse, in fact across Scotland, that they've been listening to the politicians, but the politicians haven't been delivering for them. So it's about that, listen to the people and then put their messages across in Parliament and hopefully they hit the target.
Well, later we will hear what the people of Hamilton think and, as I say, we'll speak to an expert really about what has made the difference for Labour in this. But let's get a round-up from James Cook.
Davy Russell, Scottish Labour Party, 8,559.
Delight and relief for Scottish Labour. Yeah! Their leader, Anas Sarwar, had been under pressure and under fire in a nasty campaign which had included Nigel Farage calling him sectarian and obsessed with race.
Nigel Farage looks at me and he sees something alien to his values and alien to his beliefs. I know that the vast majority of Scots look at me and think this is just one of their own, working hard to do his best for this country. I'm trying to change Scotland. Nigel Farage and Reform are trying to divide Scotland. Scotland has had enough of the politics of Nigel Farage. It never accepted the politics of Nigel Farage.
And yet, Mr Farage's Reform UK party did well here, coming a strong third, not that far behind the Scottish National Party and miles ahead of the Conservatives.
So what's your reaction to the result? It's a three-way margin. No one was talking about that days ago, hours ago. So we are thrilled.
Is this the death of the Conservative Party?
I think they're done. They're gone.
So does Reform pose a threat to the Tories?
I think the Reform are a real threat to the United Kingdom. I think their policies are mad. I think they're offering simple solutions to incredibly complex issues. And whilst I understand there's a disillusionment with established political parties, and we, as a Conservative party, certainly have lost the trust of a great number of people across the country just now, I do not think the answer to Scotland or Britain's problems lies with Nigel Farage and the Reform Party.
How's it looking, Katie?
Hi. The SNP have fallen from the heights they reached under Alex Salmond and Nicola Sturgeon, but their current leader, John Swinney, insists they remain at the races.
We got into the running again after a disastrous election last summer where we lost by over 20 percentage points to the Labour Party. So the SNP got back in contention. We've made some progress based on the general election last year, but not nearly enough progress, and we've got to focus on that to make sure we can win in 2026.
But it's Labour who are smiling today, or to be precise, Scottish Labour. There is anger here about the state of public services under the SNP, but there's anger too about UK government welfare cuts. Maybe that's why the Prime Minister did not join the campaign.
A win is a win, but there's still plenty of work for Anas Sarwar to do if he's to become First Minister of Scotland. The rise of reform in this country's old industrial heartlands, once solid Labour, then an SNP stronghold, has scrambled Scottish politics with less than a year to go before the Holyrood elections.
James Cook for us there. Well, lots of you have been getting in touch about the by-election today. Anne welcomed new MSP Davy Russell and praised him for avoiding interviews and debates, saying he put the constituents before the media circus, while John from Glasgow thinks Reform were the real winners, predicting success in the Holyrood election next year, telling us it's a given there will be a whole lot of Reform MSPs taking their seats. I can't wait, he says. Caroline in Dunbar wants the SNP to succeed next May, but thinks they need to do more to convince voters. The result is very disappointing for the SNP, but I hope it's a wake-up call for them to do more, she says. But what's the view from Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse? Our political correspondent Andrew Kerr has been to South Lanarkshire to find out what people there think.
Larkhall, a pro-union bastion in the constituency, Reform UK no doubt doing well here. It's lunchtime at a local community centre. Not everyone is impressed by their strong showing.
It's not a party I would vote for at all. I don't like their political views at all. They did put their face out there quite a lot, so maybe that's why people voted for them.
But up the road in Hamilton, it's clear Reform mobilised their potential vote with some of their key messages.
I voted for Reform.
And why was that, do you think?
One of my genuine concerns at the moment is the lack of progress with dealing with illegal immigration. There's a lot of money being spent just now, I think, on a problem that could quite easily be handled.
Labour and the SNP fought this closely. Labour say their work on the ground helped them clinch it.
I must be truthful, I voted Labour.
Did you struggle to make a choice?
Aye, I did.
Why was that?
Well, when I was in Errowood, there was nobody coming in my door. Nobody came to tell me what was doing this and who was doing that, what we were going to do. All we got was doing daft leaflets through.
Labour's candidate was criticised for not taking part in debates. That didn't matter.
I'd seen him up in Larkhall and that, and about, you see, my lasses and that and all sort of thing, give him a chance.
We featured businessman Taha before the election.
You told us you weren't going to vote. We've got the result now. What did you do?
Andrew, I didn't vote. Okay. Nobody came up with the answers I was looking for. Nobody. I knew I wasn't going to vote for SNP. SNP are anti-business. So it was a toss-up between Labour and Conservatives.
Hamilton has seen some famous by-election upsets in the past. Now, this place is not a snapshot of the whole of Scotland, but perhaps the result does signal voters' hopes and frustrations ahead of the Scottish Parliament election next year.
For Labour, as they're saying today, if we can beat the SNP at a local level, why can't we beat them at a national level? For the SNP, after a few months of national polling telling them that they're, in a relatively decent position, this will be a bit of a wake-up call and an absolute disappointment. And for Reform, I think it will be absolute concrete sign that they can compete next year. And as for the Conservatives, their vote kind of fell off a cliff, really.
Now Mr Russell's off to Holyrood. There's new momentum driving Labour up. Andrew Kerr, reporting Scotland, Hamilton.
Well, Andy McKeever is no stranger to running political campaigns, having served in a former life as Head of Communications for the Scottish Conservative. He is now Director and co-founder of the communications agency Message Matters and is with us now. Andy, thanks for your time tonight. So what do you think really won this by-election for Labour then?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about a kind of ground campaign, and there's no doubt at all that Labour's national polling did not translate into what happened yesterday. Labour have been polling at something around about 21 or 22% nationally in recent months, which is about 12 or 13% down from where they were at the general election. So something has boosted them well above the level that anybody expected them to be at. Now, Anas Sarwar spent a lot of time in the constituency. Anas Sarwar's a very persuading guy. When he's one-to-one, he can really persuade people to come on board. And he spent a lot of time there, and I'm sure that has made a difference. But it is a really interesting case study, I think, for just how much a dedicated local campaign that's getting face-to-face with people
can potentially make a difference, because I think we have to consider that made a difference here.
Yeah, as you say, Anna Sarwar spent time in the constituency. To what extent does that make a difference, Andy, that traditional campaigning, knocking doors, pounding pavements, especially when we're talking about during an age of mass media and particularly social media?
Well, look, I think that there's no question that if you get one-to-one with a politician or a leader, you can be persuaded much more easily. And that's what Anas Sarwar is very good at. But, you can't get to everybody that way. And I think ultimately some campaigns are run in different ways. The kind of air campaign is probably more effective at a general election rather than at a by-election. I think that's the other thing that we have to remember here, is that I doubt anybody will be getting carried away, not least in the Labour Party. This is a by-election. It's quite a unique circumstance. And voters can vote in by-elections in ways that they would not vote in a normal election. But I think in a by-election, that sort of, very intense local campaign where lots and lots of MSPs are coming in to try to help in that one seat, it can make quite a big difference there. I suspect it would not make as big a difference in May next year at the general election.
I was just going to say very quickly, Andy, what do you think this could signal ahead of the Holyrood elections next year?
Well, I think it signals that Labour are in the game more than people perhaps thought that they were. And I think it will give them a real boost and a bit of momentum. It will change the whole narrative around how the media looks at Anas Sarwar and Labour just now as well. So it'll do them a lot of good. But as I say, I don't think they'll be getting carried away about this yet. It's just one seat. It's a by-election. There's an awfully long mountain still to climb for them.
Yes, I'm sure we'll be talking to you many times before that, Andy. Thanks very much for your time on the programme. Andy McKeever there. Now, some news just coming in, and the body of a man has been discovered in Banknock. Police say at around 4:15 this afternoon, the body was discovered in a wooded area near Kilsyth Road in the Falkirk village. Formal identification has yet to take place. However, the family of the missing man, Cole Cooper, who was aged 19, have been informed. Now, the health service right across Scotland is currently feeling the strain of staff shortages and long waiting lists, but NHS Grampian is in bigger trouble than most. The board has submitted a recovery plan to the Scottish Government in a bid to ease the growing financial crisis. Its deficit for the last year was around £65 million. That's larger than any other Scottish health board. Ben Phillip reports.
Like many health boards, NHS Grampian is facing significant financial challenges. We haven't been given any details of this plan, but we do know back in April, the health board said one was needed to help reduce a £45 million deficit, which is forecast for next year. NHS Grampian has since been escalated to stage 4 of 5 of NHS Scotland's national performance framework, effectively meaning more scrutiny about why it's struggling. The Scottish Government, which has loaned NHS Grampian more than £90 million over the past 2 years, said it followed concerns about the health board's financial position, plans, leadership, governance, and the impact that this might have on services. NHS Grampian has previously said factors like increased staff and running costs, including an ageing population, has all contributed to its financial pressures, but reassured the public that their care remains a priority. In the meantime, accounting firm KPMG is looking into how NHS Grampian operates to inform next steps. We are expecting an update on the wider situation at a board meeting next week. Ben Phillip, reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
Here are just some of the stories you can find on the BBC News app today. It is now estimated up to £3 billion worth of public money may have to be spent assessing and removing potentially flammable cladding from buildings in Scotland. Bus drivers across the west of Scotland are continuing strike action over pay. Their union says that Stagecoach failed to improve its offer. Stagecoach says its deal is fair and sustainable. The Solway coastline in the southwest of Scotland has secured a major funding boost to help with its conservation, restoration and development. The National Lottery Heritage Fund has pledged £1.4 million, and pieces of rare 19th century pottery recovered from a shipwreck off the coast of Arran are going on display for the first time since the ship sank back in 1859. Well, for more information on all of these stories, you can scan the QR code on your screen now and it will take you right to that BBC Scotland News app. Well, still to come. We will get all the weather with Judith, find out how the weekend is looking. But before all of that, we have quite a night to look forward to at Hampden. And we can catch up with Lewis, who is there. And it might be a friendly Lewis, but there's lots to look forward to.
Oh, as always, Amy, there is indeed here at Hampden. Good evening. Yeah, Steve Clarke's Scotland squad are back in action here for the first time since what was a disappointing defeat to Greece back in March. But now, two friendlies stand between them and their World Cup qualifying campaign getting underway in September. The first of those tonight is against Iceland. And I can bring you the team news now that Steve Clarke has opted for. An interesting team as well. There is a first start for Max Johnston at right wing back and George Hurst up front as well. And it is an all-Italian Serie A midfield. What a sentence that is, eh? So what does Steve Clarke see as the priority for these two friendly matches?
Just for the players to go out and play as they can play. It's not very often, I'm not saying the games are not important, but it's not very often you get back-to-back friendlies where hopefully the players can relax a little bit, if that makes sense, but without being too relaxed. Relax and play the way that we know they can play. I think that's important to us.
So what are you expecting from Iceland in particular?
Tough game. This time last year they went to play England in a friendly at Wembley, beat them 1-0. Obviously they had a tough group for the Nations League, and then they played Kosovo in the playoffs. And between the group games and the playoff games, they changed manager. So they have a new manager, a new coach that's come in. So maybe they do something slightly different. But like I said, it's more about concentrating on ourselves this time. The level opposition is similar to the level opposition that we played last summer here when we played Finland at Hampden and then Gibraltar in Portugal. So the makeup of the two games is pretty similar.
Now to rugby, and it is a big weekend for Glasgow Warriors, the defending United Rugby Championship winners, as they are in semi-final action against Leinster tomorrow afternoon. Head coach Franco Smith and his side left Scotstoun today for their trip to Dublin, where they've lost twice in the last 2 months. One of them was a heavy 52-0 defeat in the European Champions Cup. But Smith insists Glasgow's recent win over Stormers shows they've found their rhythm again.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that we've seen some good actions last week. I think we had an off day against Benetton maybe a couple of weeks or 3-4 weeks ago, which is understandable, you know, for where we were. And but it never put what needs to be done in the last part of the season in doubt. So I'm excited that there's a coaching group and a management group, and also from a player's perspective, we've got a different group that played in the final last year. Some faces missing from last year, but a new group, you know, learning and adding their value, and I'm sure they'll pick at the right time.
And remember as well, of course, you can follow the football tonight across the BBC. The game is live on BBC One Scotland. The coverage is about to start. Kick-off is at 7:45. There's also live radio commentary on Sportsound, and of course you can follow all the action online as well with live coverage there too. So we are really keeping you covered with this one tonight. But for now, here at Hampden, Amy, it's back to you in the studio.
Yes, we have you totally covered. And Lewis, you can now go and enjoy the game, I suppose. Thanks very much. Like on many islands now, the ferry is a vital lifeline for people living on South Uist, but many residents have been badly hit by services being withdrawn after breakdowns forced vessels to be relocated. Businesses there are asking the Scottish Government for clarity on a compensation scheme set up to help them cope with ferry disruption. Ministers announced a £4.4 million resilience fund in April, but details are still to be signed off. Andrew Thompson has more.
South Uist relies on this ferry, but at 36 years old, the Lord of the Isles is ageing, like much of the Calmac fleet. Recent years have seen breakdowns and redeployments to cover other routes, causing anger, economic damage and disruption to everyday life. Protests have been staged in Lochboisdale during periods of lengthy disruption.
In 2023, a third of the island turned out to protest the ferry being taken away. Now, a third of the population of anywhere is a huge number, and for that to happen shows the impact that the ferry problems have been causing the island. For me and my business here, I spend a large amount of my time, which I shouldn't have to, helping guests who have been stranded and unable to get off the island.
An independent economic survey carried out a couple of years ago estimated that just a fortnight without a ferry was costing the South Uist economy around £500,000.
It means income is down. It means we don't have the money to invest. It means our own savings are being used to keep businesses going. It means that we don't have the money for refurbishment, to improve, in my case, the visitor experience. In other businesses, it means they don't have the money to take on staff.
In the lead up to a crisis summit back in April, the Scottish Government announced that there would be a £4.4 million resilience fund created to help businesses affected by ferry disruption. That was welcomed in South Uist and elsewhere, but there's now concern because there are still not any details about how it will work.
The problem with the resilience fund in the moment is it's been offered, but nobody knows how to claim it, nobody knows who's eligible, and nobody knows the rate of payment. Now, there are so many companies just hanging in there by their fingernails where this money, and it won't cover all their losses, but this money could be the difference between them staying in business and not.
The Scottish Government says it's working to refine the eligibility criteria so the money can help businesses who need it most. They say they'll announce further details within the coming weeks. Ministers also say that funding has been earmarked for a new ferry for South Uist. Andrew Thompson, reporting Scotland.
Now, you might well have seen What It Feels Like for a Girl. If not, it's a coming-of-age drama inspired by the acclaimed memoir of the same name by the award-winning writer and journalist Paris Lees. It tells the story of teenager Byron, who's desperate to escape life in Nottingham, but then goes on a voyage of self-discovery after discovering the club scene. Here's a little taster for you.
Welcome to the year 2000. Everyone is having fun. Except me.
Wait, I'm walking like a fairy.
How would you act if you had nothing to lose?
Hey up, the final member of the Fallen Divas project.
I know you.
Byron, the police have been round. What on earth have you done?
These violent delights and violent ends. Brace yourself for impact.
Well, earlier I grabbed a chat with lead director Brian Welsh and asked him how the show has been received so far. And just a warning, there are some flashing images coming up.
Oh, it's been an amazing week. We opened South by Southwest Festival in London, and from which was a great experience. Obviously, you don't always get the opportunity to do that with a TV show. And then since then, there's been this avalanche of positive press, and you're always nervous when you're making a show how it's going to go down. But the response thus far has been really positive and very moving.
It's based on Paris Lee's memoir. What was it about the book when you read it then, Brian, that made you want to work on a TV adaptation? What was it that spoke to you, that grabbed you?
I mean, it was really unlike anything that I'd read before. It was about a character that I'd never really experienced a point of view like this before. And it just sometimes, you hear that this must be made bell ringing, and so yes, I read the book. I then got into the audio book and got quite worked up about meeting Paris, because I could tell that we were going to do something that was really, that this could be something really bold and original and visually playful and take some real risks. And then when Paris said that she would love me to direct the show, I felt this great responsibility to then get her story right.
It centres around Byron, this young kid growing up in Nottingham, not finding this place where they're being accepted, and then finding essentially this second family through a friendship group. It might obviously be based in Nottingham, but do you hope it'll resonate with young people, whether they're from your hometown of Falkirk, Brian, or elsewhere across the country?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who has grown up and felt like an outsider at any moment in their life, and then in their sort of mid to late teens or early 20s, find a kind of like a subculture or a movement or a place that's much more inclusive and more accepting. That was certainly my experience that I found within kind of club culture and rave culture at that age. I think anyone who's had that experience of kind of finding their tribe will really love this story. It's there's something really universal in Byron's story too.
Brian Welsh, thank you so much for joining us on the programme. Director of What It Feels Like for a Girl. Cannot wait to be watching it. I'm sure it's on many people's binge list right now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And you can catch What It Feels Like for a Girl on BBC iPlayer now. Now, what do Friends star Courtney Cox and a 12-year-old schoolgirl from North Lanarkshire have in common? Well, they've both been plucked from obscurity to take a starring role at a Bruce Springsteen gig. The music legend, known as The Boss, has sold 140 million albums and was wowing crowds at Anfield in Liverpool on Wednesday when young fan Holly Roy from Carfin caught his eye with her harmonica. Here is what happened next. Oh, and you could see at the end there that Holly was given Springsteen's own harmonica. Well, Holly and her mum Laura spoke to us about the magical moment a short time ago.
I was second row, so he was like singing to me and looking at me, and then he had to go to the end, and then he came back and then started playing the harmonica, and then the people around us was trying to get his attention, and then he came and then played it with me.
I just think it was so magical. The crowd round about us were amazing. We only really got to have that moment through like the teamwork of everyone round about us helping.
This is his harmonica he gave me.
You're never selling.
Never selling. I was going to say we'll have to check eBay later. No, I've been to many a Bruce gig.
Have you?
Judith, with my dad, massive fan. Never ever managed to get that close.
Yeah.
Never mind the harmonica.
Oh, I've never seen Bruce Springsteen.
What a show! What a
yeah.
show.
Do you know one of my favourite ones was what they call American.
I'll come back to you.
How good
you
they
tell
are.
the weather.
It's because my husband loves them, so I go with them. Anyway, we look at Sunny Dunny living up to its name there. It'll come to me. And a beautiful view there up in Lochaber as well. And you can always get a cracking picture from the beautiful Northern Isles, as you can see there behind me. So as far as our weather is concerned, here is the pressure chart. This feature coming in south of the border will throw up a pulse of energy across us tomorrow, bringing some heavy showers. It's maybe the odd rumble of thunder. Once that clears away, our sort of ridge of high pressure, so a better day to come on Sunday. And as we head into the new working week, this front here might just bring a wee bit of rain on Tuesday. We're not sure where it's going to land, but the most important thing is come the middle of the week, we've all our hopes pinned on this high pressure will look set to build in. But what it is going to do is cut off the colder air, cut off the showers, but also bring some warmer air across Scotland at last. Now, as we head into tomorrow morning, it is a cloudy start, outbreaks of showery rain. It'll feel cool with all that going on. Maybe a bit of early brightness across more northern parts of the northeast, where it could be quite chilly tonight, and across the far north. The Western Isles and Skye probably missing all this rain tomorrow, and indeed the Northern Isles as well, not faring too badly. It'll be mainly dry and bright, the odd shower, but generally not a bad day here. But that cloud and that showery rain becomes more widespread as we head through the course of the day, and some really sharp showers expected across eastern Scotland in particular. Some heavy downpours, possibly the odd rumble of thunder, mainly over higher ground, but if you do catch one, they're not going to move away very fast because the wind is pretty light. It looks like we will hang on to the dry, brighter weather over the Western Isles, Skye and the Northwest Highlands. Now, temperature-wise, with all this going on, it's not going to feel particularly warm. However, we are going to see drier air and sunshine feeding into the west coast, starting to push all that away, so better into the day for the west, and eventually that all clearing from the east. But we start pulling a cool northwesterly flow across the country, so a cool start to Sunday, but bright with some sunny spells as well. Maybe the odd shower coming in during the course of the afternoon, but on balance, generally a lot of dry weather. Banding together those showers across western areas by the end of the afternoon. 15, maybe 16 Celsius and any sunshine, but it will be breezy as well. And that northwesterly breeze making it feel on the cool side. I'm still trying to remember.
I was going to say, have you remembered? No.
No, come back to me.
Thank goodness we're on the late shift. You might get the answer with us during the late bulletin. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme. Remember, Scotland's match against Iceland is live on BBC One shortly. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.